guys, in my previous Hero 10 videos, I've got a playlist on my channel with various videos. I shot with auto exposure settings, and the reason I did that was because a lot of people will most likely be using auto exposure settings rather than shooting in manual, and the other reason was because I also didn't have any ND filters. So if you're going to shoot in manual exposure, you need ND filters. So that's why those videos were shot in auto exposure. But in this video, I just wanted to talk about actually shooting in manual exposure, because I know there are some people that do want to shoot manual. And so Sandmarc recently sent me out their, how do I get through? Sandmarc recently sent me out their variable ND filter for the GoPro Hero 10. So I'm just gonna try it out today, show you guys what the difference is using an ND filter, not using an ND filter, and also just talk about the benefits of also shooting in manual exposure. So I've just taken the filter off so that you can see, but this is the filter, and all you have to do is just basically clip it on. Oops. Just clip it onto the camera, and because it's a variable ND filter, you don't have to switch out filters. You can just twist the front element here, and that will dial in your exposure as you need it. So I wanted to just talk about the benefits of actually using an ND filter. And shooting in manual exposure, this is something that I did cover in another video, so do check that out if you want to see it, but it's basically about the 180-degree shutter rule. And what that means is that whenever you film, you would set your shutter speed to be double your frame rate, so that you're essentially getting a natural motion blur, which gives your footage more of a cinematic look, more of a film-like look as well, I guess, as well as other factors. But that's essentially the main reason for it. And the reason that you want to do that is because if you don't have natural motion blur, then the footage just looks a little bit, it looks unnatural. So I'll show you an example of what I mean so that you can see. I'm currently shooting in manual now, so I'm just going to wave so that you can see what the motion looks like. So this is me shooting in manual. I've got my shutter speed set to double that of my frame rate, and I'm going to switch over so that you can see what the footage looks like without the shooting in auto exposure, so the shutter speed won't be double the frame rate basically. So this is now what the footage looks like without manual exposure. So I'm shooting in auto, and this is what the motion looks like. I can completely appreciate that there are going to be a lot of people who are literally just using the GoPro as an action camera, but if you are considering vlogging with it and just wanting to get B-roll whilst you're vlogging or doing those kind of videos, then making your B-roll as cinematic, for want of a better word, as possible is always going to make your footage look a little bit better and just give it a different kind of quality, a different kind of feel. So that's one of the benefits of using a variable ND filter. To set your GoPro up to shoot in manual, all you have to do is go to the camera settings and then change your shutter speed to be double that of your frame rate. So if you're shooting in 24 FPS, you want to set your shutter speed to 1/50th of a second. If you're shooting in 30 FPS, then you'll want to set your shutter speed to be 1/60th of a second. If you're shooting in 60 FPS, you want to set it to be 1/120th of a second. And if you're shooting in 120, then you want to set your shutter speed to be 2/140th of a second. So that's essentially, it's just double the frame rate, and like I said, you'll get that natural looking motion blur. One thing that I couldn't figure out was, so normally when you're shooting in manual, you'll set your ISO to be manual, you'll set your shutter speed to be manual, and your aperture, but obviously you can't do the aperture on this camera. But with the ISO, there's no setting for it to be just set as one value. It's either a minimum value and a maximum value. So I'm not sure, so I'm assuming that when you set the minimum value, that's what it's going to stay at if you're shooting with a manual shutter speed, and that's kind of what I'm hoping. So with your ISO, just put your ISO down to 100 as a minimum, and that will give you the best quality footage as well, because the higher your ISO is, then the more grain and noise and softness the quality the image will have. So yeah, just keep your ISO as a minimum of 100. This Sandmarc variable ND filter is an ND8 to ND64, which means that it's pretty much going to cover you for any lighting situation. So being an overcast day like it is today, and then also if it was like a really bright sunny day as well, it'll cover you for that. So that's really good, because most of the time if you get variable ND filters, they'll come in two different variants. So you'll have like a bright day variable ND filter, and then you'll have an everyday variable ND filter. But this one just covers you for all lighting situations, which is really good. One of the things I will say about ND filters is that normally if you shoot with individual ND filters, you're going to get better quality footage. They just tend to have better quality to them. That's not always the case, but I actually think that the quality of the Sandmarc variable ND filter is really good, and the only issue with it is it has to be so big just because of the shape of the lens of the GoPro, but it does obscure a little bit of the screen on the front screen of the GoPro, so you can't fully see yourself, and you can't also see the battery either. So that's the only issue with it, but honestly I don't really know how you'd make it any smaller anyway. Hope this gives you a good idea of what it's like to shoot in manual with the Hero 10. All the footage that I shot was shot with the flat colour profile, and in a next video I'll show you how I go about colour correcting the flat colour profile. But yeah, if you found this video useful, then do give it a like, and if you have any questions or there's anything else that you want to see about the Hero 10, then drop them in the comments and let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching, see you guys next time.